let me see you. Pretty girl dance, show me the viral dance. Pretty girl dance, pretty girl dance, pretty girl dance. Show me the viral dance, pretty girl dance.
Me is strange that anyone could have any moral objection to someone else's sexuality. It's like telling someone else how to clean their house. River Phoenix. This is Get Real with Shameeza. I'm your hostess, Shameeza Ali. Good evening. Salam. Namaste. And to everyone joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and on Zone Radio, and on NTN channel 69 in Georgetown, Guyana, welcome. The Caribbean is often described as one of the most homophobic regions globally, where hostility towards the LGBTQI population is rooted in government, faith, society, and music. Anti-LGBTQI laws and limited social support structures make showcasing any gender, sexual orientation, gender expression, and sexuality diversity that's not heteronormative as a criminal's act. The Pride, Queer Caribbean Joy and Resistance panel will highlight the history of Caribbean LGBTQ activism, pride, and visibility in New York City. Speakers will share their personal stories of resilience and resistance to police violence, accessing immigration resources, affirming healthcare, addressing anti Blackness, and cross racial solidarity healing. The conversation was centered on Caribbean LGBTQ futurism, joy, mobilization, safety, and advocacy to protect queer and trans people. But first, tonight we have two giveaways. First giveaway is a ticket to Get Real with Shameeza 1 year anniversary, June 18th. And here is your chance to win this prize. Last week I spoke to Crystal Lamb. What type of business does she own? Here's the question again. Last week I spoke to Crystal Lamb. What type of business does she own? The second giveaway is compliments of Varman Badesi Children Foundation and BuyEasy.com. Here's your chance to win this prize. The question for your chance is last week I spoke to Cherish Raghunan. What song did she end the show with last week? Again, last week I spoke to Cherish Raghunan. What song did she end the show with last week? Now, here's a message from our sponsors.
Enos Driving School offers training for CDL licenses, including tractor trailers, trucks, and school buses. Just think, with a CDL license, you can have access to thousands of driving jobs at large companies such as FedEx, UPS, MTA, or New York Sanitation. Enos Driving School also offers defensive driving courses and training classes for cars and motorcycles, all taught by their college-trained instructors who can even schedule your road test appointments. Inquire about other driving and training packages as well. You might even be qualified for their free CDL training, as they are a certified institution with the New York State Workforce One program. Call Enos Driving School today. They've been serving our community for over 10 years.
M&R Firefest is one of the newest hotspots in Richmond Hill. If you're looking to have a fun time or just chill, this lounge is the place to be. We celebrate all occasions and our live entertainment and drink specials are amazing. We are located at 13123 Liberty Avenue. Come check us out and see what everyone is talking about.
Flamingo Restaurant and Mantra Lounge. We are NYC's premier Caribbean restaurant and lounge, specializing in authentic West Indian, Chinese, and Caribbean cuisine. Open every day for lunch and late nights. For delivery, find us on Uber Eats, Grubhub, Seamless, and DoorDash. Visit our rooftop lounge upstairs on the weekends for a fun-filled night. We cater and take bookings for private events. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Flamingo Mantra. Our address is 120-06 Rockaway Boulevard, telephone 718-835-1000.
Brooklyn Media Group and Dave Pittenberg, in association with Angels Caribbean Entertainment Group, proudly present for the first time a Carnival, the musical experience at the iconic Showboat Hotel and Convention Center in Atlantic City, New Jersey on Friday, June 17th. Come and enjoy Father's Day weekend with your entire family in a family-friendly environment. A musical show with a difference, featuring a multicultural and talented Angels Caribbean Band and the Tarang Dance Troupe, live musicians, dancers, carnival costume, stealth walkers, and much more. And the mega after dance party with DJ Fest. So come dance the night away. Family fun for the weekend. Atlantic City Boardwalk, Atlantic City Beach, Showboat, Lucky Snakes Arcade, Go-Kart, Steel Pier Carnival, and rides. Tickets available at www.angelscaribbeanbandac.eventbrites.com. Showtime 7:30 p.m. Carnival, the musical experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our panel for this evening. Welcome, Mohammed. How are you? Welcome, Tiffany. Such a pleasure to see you. Ryan Prasadi, welcome. Darren, Glenn. And we have Twinkle. Welcome, everyone. We also have Danielle. Guys, I will hand it over to you now to introduce yourselves.
Hi, everyone. Happy Pride Month and Caribbean Heritage Month. My name is Mohammed Q. Amin. I am the founder and executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project, and I use he, him, and they, them pronouns. And I'm going to pass it to my sister, Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. Oh, my gosh. Happy Pride to everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Tiffany Jade Monroe, and I am the Trans Justice Coordinator for the Caribbean Equality Project, and my pronouns are she and her.
Move it over to Ryan.
Yes, Ryan. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Prasadi. I'm the cultural researcher here at the Caribbean Equality Project. I'm based in Toronto, and I use he, him pronouns.
Thank you. We'll go now to Daniel.
Hello, kings and queens. Happy Pride. My name is Daniel Daphnis. My pronouns are he, him, and they. I'm currently the program officer at Eastern Caribbean Alliance for Diversity and Change, currently based in St. Lucia. And I'm most welcomely, certainly willing and here to hear whatever you guys have to hear from us.
And now we'll go to Twinkle.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Twinkle Paul. I am the policy advocate for Caribbean Equality Project. I'm also a Caribbean liaison and social media coordinator for United African Descendants, and also the strategic advisor for Guyana Trans United. And I'm an undergraduate student also at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. So happy Pride, family. Nice to see all y'all. To all the viewers, happy Pride. Be yourself.
Go ahead, Darren.
Thank you so much. Happy Pride, everybody. And my name is Darren J. Glenn. I'm the programs director at Caribbean Equality Project. I'm based in New York, and I'm very, very humbled and honored and excited to be a part of this panel. Thank you so much.
Perfect. And so, since we have the introduction all on point there, Mohammed, tell us about the evolution of Caribbean pride and the LGBTQ visibility in New York City.
Thank you, Shameeza. So for folks who may not be familiar with Caribbean LGBTQ visibility in New York City, it really started in 1998 with Colin Robinson, who co-founded Caribbean Pride, which is one of the first known Caribbean LGBTQ organization in New York City. And in 1998, Colin said, we're going to put a big truck in the People's Parade. And when he said the People's Parade, he was referring to the NYC Pride March. And so they did. They organized the very first Soca Big Truck, and it became a symbol of Caribbean LGBTQ resistance, visibility, love, resilience, and power, because it played music that our Caribbean people were accustomed to. But community was invited to march in carnival costumes, cultural wear, really reminiscent of what's in the Caribbean carnival, right? Carnival culture. And if you are from Trinidad, or if you go to Trinidad for carnival, Barbados, St. Lucia, you are well aware of carnival culture. And Colin Robinson and his colleagues put a gay carnival in the New York City Pride Parade. Since then, I've had the honor to co-organize the big truck during my time at Chutney Pride. At the time, Tina Ariolis was the founder, and she is the founder, and her and I were able to organize. Tina also led the big truck tradition for many years in New York City, including Joel and Richard from Caribbean Pride and from Curry Club NYC. These folks have continued the tradition that Colin started back in 1998. And in 2019, Caribbean Equality Project honored Colin's legacy by taking over the big truck tradition, and we honored his legacy at War Pride, which was the very last time we were able to celebrate Pride in person with the big truck in New York City until last Sunday when we brought it to Queen's Pride, where Caribbean Equality Project was a proud Grand Marshal of the 30th anniversary of the Queen's Pride Parade. So that's just a small history. Our history is very expansive. We have been visible at the New York City Labor Day parade. We have been marching in the Pagua Parade in New York City, particularly in Richmond Hill, Queens, which is something we advocated for. I personally, with Kristen Ramsaran, advocated for. Also, we had many folks that came before us who advocated for folks to be in the Pagua Parade as well, including Rohan Suklal. But in 2016, Caribbean Equality Project made its debut at the Pagua Parade, and since then, we have been organizing to create faith-affirming spaces for our LGBTQ community in New York City.
Wow. Well, I know that you're doing an amazing job. You are a proud leader, and every time I see you at an event, I know you wear that pride on your sleeve. You're always, and you're just a happy person that when I'm around you, I just have like happy thoughts and happy emotions all the time. Now, Tiffany and Twinkle, since moving to the United States, how has your life changed? And what were some of your challenges and accomplishments?
Tiffany, you want me to go first?
Tiffany.
You can go. Oh, you want me to go first, or Twinkle? You could
Sure,
just.
it doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll go first. So that is a beautiful question. Again, I'm Tiffany Jade Monroe. Pronouns are she, her. Um, Honestly, I was like so excited to be a part of um, the American culture, or to be a part of America, because I've definitely like seen all of the stuff on television. I've seen the high school life, and I've seen these amazing parades. I've even seen the big truck. I've seen all this stuff. And, I was like, this is a place for me. This is where I need to be. This is where I can be Tiffany. And I will say to you, coming here, it was something totally different. Um, it was a slap in my face. Everything here is really, really different. And more so, it was very tough for me, especially since I arrived here as a undocumented black gay man. And, I had to find ways to stay here. And currently, I am an asylum seeker. And in my mind, I'm like, what is next for me? I got here, I see everything here. Well, what is next for me? And it's amazing. I contacted Caribbean Equality Project, and they actually have groomed me into this beautiful trans activist, trans justice coordinator that I am today. Thank you so much again, CP, always, Mohammed. I love you. Twinkle, I love you too. And um they've just made me be me and accepted me for me. And navigating everything through all my emotions, and finding my place in the United States, as I said, was very difficult. It took me a while to actually realize that, who Tiffany really is, and also just to find resources to be Tiffany was also difficult as well. But the great thing is, as I said, Caribbean Equality Project definitely helped shed the light in that darkness, and
Yeah.
they put me on to so many great help and so many resources. And today I can stand to you or sit here on this interview as a amazing, beautiful trans woman from Guyana.
Wow, well said, Tiffany. And I know last year I had the pleasure of having you on Get Real with Shameeza. And, I know at that time you were transitioning, there was a lot of things happening. So now I see you're a lot more relaxed, right? You're here. Everything is just so beautiful. I can see what you're saying. And I'm so proud of you. You've come a long way, but here you are. You have people around you who care about you and who is there to support you. And that's what's important, right? Have your brothers and sisters here with you. So I know you feel loved, but again, the journey is the journey, right? We take it all in and we look back and we say, hey, I'm in a better place. But nevertheless, you had to go through certain things to get you where you are today. We'll now move on to, um, let me make sure we have,
Shameeza, I
we
think
will
we have to go
now
to
move on to
Twinkle.
Twinkle. Yes, Twinkle, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So, thank you for the question again, Shameeza, and also thank you for the opportunity to, be a part of this program. So, I think since moving here, the best thing that changed, one of the best changes I think I experienced is I'm more humble, and I'm paying more responsibility to my life. Like, I'm more responsible for the things that I'm doing and such forth. So that is good, I think. But the other thing that bothered me, the challenges that I had to like face up with when I come here, was the political climate of this country. For once, when I land here in 2018, the ex-president was very hostile towards immigrants, and every time you got to experience this hostility towards asylum seekers or towards immigrants, specifically immigrants of color, um, And then there's always something in the news. There's always somebody fighting against LGBTI rights. There's this religious bigotry that's been going around, and a lot of false narrative about LGBT people that you gotta constantly work to push back against every day. So that has been a challenge for me. And honestly, I haven't overcome them as yet because, as you know, the political climate here in the US is always ongoing. And think, after one person, the next person, the system is just the system. So that's it. In terms of accomplishments, though, I think I've accomplished a lot. Like I said, personally, me humbling and being more careful at life than I was a few years before. And then my education, I was able to go back to school. Like I just graduated with my associate's degree in communication from BMCC. And so those kind of things, like those are the accomplishments I could talk about. Also, I'm able to get a formal means of employment because in Guyana, the only means of employment I had was sex work due to, you know, the other climate there too, the homophobic, transphobic, and colonial climate of Guyana. So, those are some of my challenges and accomplishments and just the way I get about here. So I'll pass it on to the next question.
Well, first, let me congratulate you. That's a huge accomplishment. And I'm so proud to hear you say that because, a lot of times, like Tiffany was saying, you come here and we hope that America is the place that we can, live our dreams out and we can have more opportunities and different things, right? And then you come here only to realize, hey, there are certain things that's wrong. And I'm happy to hear, regardless of what was happening, you were able to accomplish this for yourself. And that's just amazing, right? So I'm so proud of you to get this done. We will move on now to the global coronavirus pandemic has impacted all our lives. Tell us about the Caribbean Equality Project's work to address racial justice inequalities, food insecurity, and mutual aid. And it can be open, I guess. Anyone can answer the question.
Darren, do you want to start? And
Go
I
ahead.
can follow.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to uplift the work that we've done. Yeah, as everyone on this call very well knows, that there was a global pandemic that impacted every community, from the wealthiest to the poorest, from those in developed nations to those in nations that are struggling with every other aspect of human development. So this was really, in many ways, the great equalizer. And when the pandemic came to New York City, there was just so much need that just opened up because the pandemic did not create so many problems as it exacerbated problems that already existed. And so Caribbean Equality Project, like every other community-based organization trying to be responsive to the needs of our people, we had to have a meeting and just say, like, what is our response going to be? And at the time, if you can just think back to March of 2020, February of 2020, this problem just seems so large outside of so far outside of ourselves. But we really took on the question head on, like, what can we do? What can our response be? And one thing that we quickly realized was that the shelter-in-place orders that were put in place by our state officials and our local officials had a severe impact on folks that were working in low-wage jobs, jobs that tended to be large vectors of employment for immigrants and for people who have different types of documentation statuses. Those jobs really were decimated by the pandemic, as I don't have to explain to people watching here today. And so that, of course, had a domino effect on people's ability to feed their families. And at the end of the day, we as Caribbean people, we know the importance of feeding each other. right? I mean, every community knows the importance of feeding each other, but we as Caribbean people have a deep connection to food and to pleasure and to togetherness and to supporting one another. So our first response was to address the food security crisis that is still ongoing, by the way, but and that existed before the pandemic came to New York City. But we realized that our communities were in danger of being undernourished, and that was the first thing that we responded to, making sure that this issue of people being able to feed their families was addressed, even amidst all the uncertainty of what was going to happen with the economy, and particularly the economy as it relates to low-income, low-wage workers. And even amidst all this uncertainty with like the public health crisis, amidst all this uncertainty with our other systems of government, with our electoral system, if you can think back to 2020, we knew that we needed to start by feeding people. And that, of course, evolved, as all things do, into making sure that we're meeting the other kind of essential needs of people. If you can think of like the hierarchy of needs that every individual has, we wanted to make sure that people were provided with the tools to keep themselves healthy, which not only included PPE, but it also included making sure that they could cover the costs of their co-pays for prescription medicine. It included keeping people housed to the degree that we could, because we also know that housing is one of the greatest social determinants of health. And so our work became much more expansive and holistic as we tried to grapple with the scope of the crisis that our city was facing as it impacted Caribbean immigrant families. And so I would love to pass it over to Mo to kind of really expand upon like how that evolved and what the context was for that work.
Sure, thanks, Darren. So before I continue, I think we have a video to really highlight our food insecurity work, which we've been doing in Southeast Queens, in Richmond Hill, and Flatbush, Brooklyn, in Brooklyn, which is known as Little Caribbean. And this video that you're going to see is from our 2021 Holiday Pantry series, which highlights the work we've been doing in Richmond Hill, in the Bronx, and in Brooklyn.
So show me what community looks like! This is what community looks like! Show me what community looks like! This is what community looks like! Show me what community looks like! This is what community looks like! One more time, let you hear those voices. Show me what community looks like! This is what community looks like!
Hi, my name is Mohammed Q. Amin.
This is your favorite councilwoman, Rita Joseph.
My name is Winsome Pendergrass.
My name is Nirmala Singh.
I'm the founder and executive director of the Caribbean Equality Project.
I'm here today in partnership with Caribbean Equality Project.
I'm here representing Flatbush Mixtape.
I'm a member of New York Communities for Change.
I'm a founding board member of South Queens Women's March.
We saw what COVID-19 did to us in terms of food insecurity.
And we realized how serious it is that our people are in need.
And what we've done this year is continue a tradition we started in 2020, and we organized 3 holiday food and essentials distributions in Soundview in the Bronx, Flatbush, Brooklyn, and Richmond Hill, Queens.
So we worked. We give out so much food.
And we've been distributing culturally responsive groceries such as like cabbage and rice and chickpeas.
And also providing toys and putting a smile on the faces of the children of my district.
Including children's books. Reading is fundamental, and we need to also promote reading right now.
These particular pantries, they were very different compared to our bi-monthly pantries. More specifically, we did twice the number of packages. So we did 1,200 wear a mask package, which includes 10 masks, hand sanitizers. We also did 1,200 safe sex packets, which include condom, lubes, instructions. And we did 1,200 oral hygiene packages, which include toothbrushes, toothpaste.
We know that folks that live in the NYCHA houses are the most impacted community members, and that means that we have to bring the resources to them.
So we really realized that we really have to meet our community members where they are on the streets in South Queens.
So it was up to us to feed our people and to help keep them safe.
And where our elected officials, those that are currently in power, failed us, it was community organizations like Caribbean Equality Project that stepped up to say we're going to serve our community with love and joy while maintaining their dignity.
It's a great moment for us to bond and build together, but also for us to give back.
That's what food justice work in New York City is all about, protecting and loving the most vulnerable community members.
We need you to help us continue to fight food insecurity in New York City by making a donation to the Caribbean Equality Project.
And they were there for the community. So I thank them for their partnership and today for being in my district to help serve the community.
This is an act of solidarity, and we really want to support our community members, and we will continue to do this work.
On behalf of all of us at Caribbean Equality Project,
on behalf of Flatbush Mixtape,
On behalf of South Queens Women's March,
On behalf of myself and all the volunteers at the Caribbean Equality Project,
happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays! Happy holidays!
happy holidays and happy new year. We will continue fighting food insecurity in 2022, and we will continue to love and protect each other. Happy holidays.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. So, our food insecurity work, we know that food insecurity have impacted all communities. And for us at the Caribbean Equality Project, we didn't want to create a food justice program specifically for the LGBTQ community. We recognize that food insecurity was impacting our immigrant families, our neighbors, our loved ones. So we created an inclusive food pantry where anyone experiencing food insecurity and hunger could access culturally responsive groceries, fresh produce, and also including like PPEs, masks, sanitizers, safe sex products, oral hygiene products, contraceptives, and also like period products as well. And our pantry became and transformed into more of a resource fair where we started to do vaccine outreach, where we were making vaccine appointments and providing on-site vaccination and testing to community members who might have been exposed to COVID or who needed to be vaccinated. One of the other things we also did was started a COVID-19 relief fund. Many of our community members started to reach out to us in 2020, and up until today, experiencing housing insecurity, tenant harassment, being threatened by the landlord that they're going to be evicted if they don't pay rent. And when you think about the impact of COVID, you also have to think about the economic crisis of COVID and how that translated to homelessness and how it translated to people being housing insecure. And many of our LGBTQ community members, particularly those who are undocumented, our sex workers, our Black trans community, these folks were most vulnerable because of their identities, their intersectional identities. I remember specifically a community member called us and said, I'm going to get evicted because my landlord knows that I'm undocumented and he's threatening to call ICE on us. And when he said us, he was referring to him and his partner. And this happened in Richmond Hill, Queens. When you think about a couple living and having to move because of their immigration status, that is a form of discrimination in New York City. And we were able to work with this couple. We were able to connect them to the New York City Commission on Human Rights, where that landlord, who also happened to have been Guyanese, was able to be educated on housing laws and tenant rights in New York City. And we were able to keep that couple in their home. And it went beyond that, right? We started to rent negotiate with landlords to keep our community safe. And we started to distribute money to community members that we raised. Within a pandemic for 2 years, within 2020 and 2021, we raised over $60,000 and distribute that money to over 300 plus Caribbean LGBTQ immigrants in New York City, within the five boroughs. And these grants range from $150 to $300. They went to pay phone bills, cell phone bills, internet bills, cable bills, food on the table, healthcare, copay, like Darren mentioned earlier, but also even Metro cards, basic essentials to buy a monthly Metro cards for those who is still working or working reduced hours so they can get to work. And I'm so grateful to our community, those that have donated to help support this fund, particularly our allies who stepped up and said, we are going to protect Black and Brown Caribbean immigrants in New York City. We are going to protect asylum seekers. We are going to protect trans people. We are going to protect sex workers. And if you have donated to the Caribbean Equality Project within the past 2 years, thank you so much. Just know your money went to community members that were living at the margins of outdated immigration policies, racial injustice, housing insecurity, food insecurity, and health disparities in New York City. And you help to save lives, but you also help to keep our community safe and protected. So thank you for all of your donations.
Well said, Mohammed. An amazing job. Everything that you guys have accomplished, keeping food on those people's table during that time. Amazing work done. We will take a message from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Hibiscus has been a flagship restaurant in our community for a very long time. Come dine with us and enjoy our excellent food, drinks and service at any one of our many locations. We are located on 12418 101 Avenue and 22113 Jamaica Avenue. Hibiscus at Elliott's on the Mile in Freeport is one of our newest locations, along with 12402 Rockaway Boulevard. In Guyana at 91 Middle Street, Georgetown. Bring your family and friends and come visit us soon.
Kiss Hall is one of Queens' premier locations to celebrate any special occasion, business and social events. The ambience and atmosphere is rich with elegance. Let your vision come true and allow our staff to handle every aspect of your affair. Come enjoy this experience at Kiss Hall and share it with your guests in an unforgettable setting. We are located at 130 to 3590 First Ave, Richmond Hill, New York. Contact us at 347-564-5406.
Sherry's Weakness for Sweetness is a family-owned and operated bakery with a West Indian flair. We specialized in custom cakes, decorative desserts and a contemporary spin on traditional West Indian cuisine. We are located at 114-07 Jamaica Avenue. Hours of operations are Tuesday through Friday 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Memories should always be this sweet. Come visit us today.
All right, we are back. And Mohammed, go ahead. You can continue.
No, I think a lot of what we have done within the food insecurity and mutual aid programming area of the work lends to a larger issue of racial injustice in New York City. When we talk about food insecurity, we see it impacting Black and Brown communities. We see it impacting immigrant communities. And even right where I live in Richmond Hill, Queens, so many immigrant families have lost their jobs. So many folks went from having two incomes to one income to no income. And you have to think about what this does to a family, their financial stability, what it does to their ability to provide food for their children, and maintain all of their living expenses. And these are the things that families in New York City had to really reconcile with during the pandemic. And that also includes LGBTQ people as well. Many of us that are in New York City, if we were working, we were either working from home, and that's because we are documented and we had a job, the privilege of a job that said you can work from home. But if you are an undocumented person and you didn't have an income and you were working at the local bodega or you're working at the local restaurant or you were a bartender or you did construction or you were a waiter, these jobs evaporated. Everything was closed. And these folks lost their income. And they became excluded workers in New York City. We know that LGBTQ people have always been essential. We have always been essential workers. Immigrants have always been essential workers. But during the pandemic, if you were undocumented, you didn't qualify for a stimulus check. You didn't qualify for unemployment benefits. You didn't qualify for any government aid. And while many families received a government check, our undocumented community members did not receive any of that support to help them through the pandemic. And I think we also have to talk about the brutal killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McCabe. We have seen how Black lives have been devalued and brutalized in America. And our Caribbean community in itself, we have also seen how anti-Blackness have taken root or even amplified during the pandemic with the All Lives Matter narrative. And we have to really think about what this means for our community. How can we stand in solidarity with the Black community, the Black trans community, and say that we will protect you and we will fight for you, but also acknowledge that our own history, our own Caribbean history of oppression and racial injustice as well. And I often say in New York City, when you migrate to the Caribbean, when you migrate to the US or abroad or wherever you're going, Canada, the UK, we take our pride with us, we take our culture with us, we take our tradition with us, but we also oftentimes take our homophobia and racism with us as well. And we've seen that. I remember in 2020, a group of us were trying to organize a solidarity Black Lives Matter protest in Richmond Hill. And as soon as the marketing went up, it became this larger conversation about you need to board up your business and you need to protect your stores because they're going to come and loot. And this really anti-Black narrative that Black folks are looters and Black folks will destroy your property was really toxic, but it also continued this fear mongering that has always existed in our community. And it was continued by people that are elected in elected positions, community organizers, other community leaders, and people in positions of power promoted this fear-mongering narrative in our community. But I'm going to pass it to my other colleagues to really talk about, get more of a deep dive into the racial injustice issues that we have been facing with and responding to as well. So anyone who wants to jump in can take it from here.
Okay. Well, during the pandemic, I know for me, I would have went through a lot in terms of accessing hormones as well as um, economic stability in terms of job, because most persons would have looked past your potential and look in terms of your sexuality. So they no longer see the need for you anymore at that time. So they most likely take the persons them that they think, because those persons are straight, they tell themselves, those persons were more needed, more essential to their services than you. Um, Outside of hormones and economic stability, well, you don't know if money is not there in terms of even eating. That was a challenge. So thank God for the various NGOs. I can always say that, we LGBT people, we always have one another back, no matter where we are. We always get each other back. So you can always like reach out and various network wherever you are, just connecting the dots to, assist and help us to have uh, good health being, good well-being. Because if you're not getting these basic necessity, then you started to have some mental challenges, and mental challenges. This is a topic that not much people want to like zoom in on and to talk about. So yeah.
Wow. Now, uh, Daniel, Twinkle, and Tiffany, tell us about the need for affordable housing, affirming healthcare, and an economic stability for trans people here in New York City and Guyana.
All right. Well, seeing that I'm already
There's
on.
still a lot. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Um. Well, in terms of that, I can see in Guyana, it was challenging for me as somebody identifying yourself as trans, because most persons would have known me as my assigned sex at birth, right? So, and then when I choose to identify myself as trans, then I started to, experience a lot of stigma from persons close to me that, and with experiencing stigma and, not knowing who to turn to, um, well, my family, I can say my family, they shared some support, but not much knowledge because of various sexuality. And I think in Guyana, persons still on the assumption that sex and gender are two terms that are interchangeable. So, a lot of work still needs to be done in regards to that. With accessing hormones in Guyana, um, well, I can speak on my behalf in terms of accessing hormones in Guyana, because my transitioning journey in terms of gender affirming care, it didn't start in Guyana. It started in Antigua. But I can see for my other trans brothers that are in Guyana, I know currently right now they're having some issues in terms of accessing hormones. Um, Also, in Guyana, as long as persons realize or have knowledge that you are part of the LGBT community in terms of housing, you have to worry about your safety, because you don't know who is who. A person might be smiling and say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to help you, whatever, whatever." But then at the same time, you still gotta like get one eye open, because you don't know if those persons are kind of like genuine. In terms of healthcare, well, the government, they are always emphasizing, oh, we're providing healthcare services for everyone. But then in actuality, when it comes to trans persons accessing healthcare for better them life, is a bit challenging, right? Um, because typical example, you're saying that, oh, you have you you have services, or you have services for everyone. We all are Guyanese, right? But then in terms of going to access hormones care, that's a big challenge to access hormones care, because we still have the law preventing us to express ourselves. Hence, even if there is hormones inside the country, to get a doctor to provide that services to you, it's a bit challenging. Um, what else? Um, Economical stability. Well, because of our gender identity or sexual orientation, we're pushed aside no matter our um educational background, because I went to the University of Guyana and I graduated with my degree in social work. But then, because I identify myself as a trans man, persons think that I would not be a good social worker to counsel them or to counsel their kids, because they on the assumption or they on the belief that because I'm gay, I'm gonna impose my values, my gay values onto those persons. And um, if I can't live a straight life and I'm confused, then how am I gonna be able to assist person? So me practicing social work inside Guyana is a bit, it's very challenging, because even up to now, for me to go back into Guyana to practice social work, still it's still gonna come back to the same thing. Um, that's for Guyana. Um, for Antigua, um, I didn't have that much challenge because persons didn't know me from when I was born. So, getting to access certain services, it wasn't that much challenging because, persons getting to know me as how I am identifying myself, how I choose to, express myself. So back in Antigua, persons had saw me as a man. The only single time when a big challenges came about is when I go to certain ministry, and when they have to ask you for your identification card, then is when they see that on that card has my sex, which is female. Then is when they have that question and that, like, step back. But nevertheless, because I was a visitor, they didn't really like zoom in on it. So they still provide that services. And the doctor that I went to start my hormones treatment, um, she was very open minded, you know, and it wasn't that challenging to access that services. Before I went to the doctor, I would have went to find out if there's any hormones inside the country. Well,
Danielle, just give me a moment. We just have to go to a quick break. We'll come right back with you.
no
Okay?
problem.
Hold that
No
thought.
problem.
Enos Driving School offers training for CDL licenses, including tractor trailers, trucks, and school buses. Just think, with a CDL license, you can have access to thousands of driving jobs at large companies such as FedEx, UPS, MTA, or New York Sanitation. Enos Driving School also offers defensive driving courses and training classes for cars and motorcycles, all taught by their college-trained instructors who can even schedule your road test appointments. Inquire about other driving and training packages as well. You might even be qualified for their free CDL training, as they are a certified institution with the New York State Workforce One program. Call Enos Driving School today. They've been serving our community for over 10 years.
M&R Firefest is one of the newest hotspot in Richmond Hill. If you're looking to have a fun time or just chill, this lounge is the place to be. We celebrate all occasions and our live entertainment and drink specials are amazing. We are located at 13123 Liberty Avenue. Come check us out and see what everyone is talking about.
Flamingo Restaurant and Mantra Lounge. We are NYC's premier Caribbean restaurant and lounge, specializing in authentic West Indian, Chinese, and Caribbean cuisine. Open every day for lunch and late nights. For delivery, find us on Uber Eats, Grubhub, Seamless, and DoorDash. Visit our rooftop lounge upstairs on the weekends for a fun-filled night. We cater and take bookings for private events. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Flamingo Mantra. Our address is 120-06 Rockaway Boulevard, telephone 7188351000.
Brooklyn Media Group and Dave Pittenberg, in association with Angels Caribbean Entertainment Group, proudly present for the first time a Carnival, the musical experience at the iconic Showboat Hotel and Convention Center in Atlantic City, New Jersey on Friday, June 17th. Come and enjoy Father's Day weekend with your entire family in a family-friendly environment. A musical show with a difference, featuring a multicultural and talented Angels Caribbean Band and the Tarang Dance Troupe, live musicians, dancers, carnival costume, stealth walkers, and much more. And the mega after dance party with DJ Fest. So come dance the night away. Family fun for the weekend. Atlantic City Boardwalk, Atlantic City Beach, Showboat, Lucky Snakes Arcade, Go-Kart, Steel Pier Carnival, and rides. Tickets available at www.angelscaribbeanbanac.eventbrites.com. Showtime 7:30 p.m. Carnival, the musical experience.
We'll now move on to Ryan. Ryan, tell us about Live Pridefully, Love and Resilience Within Pandemics exhibition.
Sure. I'm not sure if Mo, if you wanted to contextualize the exhibition.
Mo will go as well.
Okay. So I was kind of brought on to the project as the cultural researcher to talk about the work that was being done in this sort of exhibition that was premiered at the Queen's Museum. I know Mo will probably talk about this after, but featuring a lot of artwork that was curated by Mohammed and the rest of the team to center the experiences of queer and trans Caribbean people in NYC. And particularly on my end, there was an installation that referenced the Mocha Jumbi figure that was at the central, is in the center of the exhibition at Queen's. And my job was to kind of think through sort of what the Mocha Jumbi is offering us in this sort of queer context. Particularly in the ways in which Caribbeanness often gets always seen as heterosexual and not offering room for queerness and transness, right? And we've often heard this narrative in a lot of our communities that it's actually queerness and Caribbeanness don't work together, or that they're opposites, or that they're oppositional. And so the work around the Mocha Jumbi was to think through sort of the relationships between histories of the transatlantic slave trade and indenture and other sort of communities that carry ancestry to the Caribbean, and how the spirit of the Mocha Jumbi is sort of offering us a lot of lessons in thinking about queerness as always part of the Caribbean, queerness as part of the ongoing legacy of the Caribbean, and as something that helps us to think, about resilience and resistance, and thinking about joy and bacchanal as always a queer expression. And maybe I'll turn it over to Mo to kind of contextualize the sort of parameters of the exhibition.
Okay. Go ahead, Mo.
Thanks, Ryan. So we have a promotional video from Live Pridefully for you, and we can play that video, and then I'll come back and talk a little bit about the participants.
Perfect.
What does it mean to live pridefully?
How do you define love and resilience within pandemics?
During this era of uncertainty,
the Caribbean Equality Project's Live Pridefully exhibition at the Queen's Museum
reimagines and affirms Caribbean LGBTQ+ immigrants and asylum seekers
as essential workers, creatives, and contributors to the cultural diversity of New York City.
Live Pridefully celebrates Black and Brown queer and trans embodied resilience by fostering critical conversations
to amplify stories of pride,
migration,
surviving colliding pandemics,
and coming out narratives.
Love and resilience within pandemics means standing in solidarity against anti-Asian hate violence.
Resilience means owning our vulnerabilities, telling our stories, and speaking truth to power.
Live Pridefully means fighting for Black, trans liberation.
Live Pridefully means serving your community, caring for the impacted, and fighting for LGBTQ rights and justice.
Love and resilience mean using my voice to fight for gender equity and honoring my Indo-Caribbean ancestors.
To live pridefully means advocating for immigration reform and protecting LGBTQ asylum seekers.
I live pridefully.
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 So, live pridefully is sort of like our affirmation. This term, live pridefully, is the Caribbean Equality Project's affirmation, usually heard during Pride Month, at the Pride parades. And during the pandemic, we weren't able to march in the Pride parades. We weren't able to celebrate Pride in person with our community the way we normally would. So we had to reimagine what Pride looks like during the pandemic. And in 2021, we organized a 2-night Pride event called Live Pridefully, Love and Resilience Within Pandemics. And it featured over 21 Black and Brown, queer and trans performers, drag artists, singers, poets. And from that project came Live Pridefully, the exhibition. We were approached by the Queen's Museum to do a project to highlight the work that Caribbean Equality Project has been doing, particularly during the pandemic. And a little bit about our history. Caribbean Equality Project was launched at the Queen's Museum in 2015. So there's a lot of synergy and relationship there, existing relationship that we have with the museum, but they have never organized or they have never centered Black and Brown Caribbean LGBTQ voices. And for the first time, Live Pridefully did that. And, you know, Audre Lorde taught us that we do not live single issue lives. And Live Pridefully highlights the intersectionality of what it means to be Caribbean and LGBTQ. It features Rajiv Mahabir, who's a queer poet, writer from Guyana. It features Jade Monroe, who is here, a Black trans woman from Guyana. It features Queen Jean, an amazing and very talented Black Haitian trans woman. Also includes Tanuja Rosario, who is a gender justice and reproductive rights advocate based in New York City. Rohan, who is a Blasian identified person, meaning that Rohan, who uses they, them pronouns, is half Jamaican and half Filipino. And Rohan centers all of his identities within the pandemic as we saw an increase in anti-Asian hate violence. Rohan became very visible in talking about the intersectionality of anti-Blackness and anti-Asian hate with the Blasian March. And also Theo Brown, our public relations officer at the Caribbean Equality Project, who has been an avid voting rights advocate in New York City, and also Darren J. Glenn, our programs director, who has been doing tremendous work around environmental justice, but also behind the scenes at the Caribbean Equality Project, working every single day to create sustainability for the organization's work. And this exhibition was on view until March, which is now currently on view in Brooklyn, under the Brooklyn Bridge. So we're so excited for this exhibition to be back in New York City, and folks can go and see it. It's actually at Water Street in New York City. Somebody's at my door. Y'all hear my dog. He is telling me that somebody's at the door. So I'm going to pass it over to the next question so they can answer it so I can go tend to my child.
Okay. Darren and Tiffany gets the next question. As a featured participant in the exhibition, how do you see it impacting LGBTQ plus narratives in New York City?
I'll just jump first just because I really want Tiffany to go last because Tiffany just has such a beautiful and amazing story. And this exhibition is just really kind of the cherry on top of Tiffany's journey. So allow me to go first because my story is a little bit more boring. I think the exhibition is such a beautiful way to showcase the raw potential of queer Caribbean people. You know, in our home countries, queer, trans, gender nonconforming people in our communities are hidden, they're marginalized, they're silenced, their contributions to society are obfuscated in the service of creating a national identity that is divorced from queerness. This is something that plays out all throughout the region, in the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, the English-speaking Caribbean, the French-speaking Caribbean, and Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica. We know that queer people, gay men, lesbians, bisexual folks, folks who are binary trans, non-binary trans, people who are questioning, they have always been contributing to our culture. Carnival culture would be nothing without queer people. I just want that stated on the record. But this exhibition is just such a beautiful way of actually correcting the record and saying, like, if we celebrated queer and trans people from the Caribbean in all of their identities, and if we allowed them to be great and also allowed them to embrace their identities publicly, what could it inspire? That is the question of this exhibition. And I think the Moko Jumbi is just such a perfect image to describe, to capture this idea of like raising us up and putting us on a pedestal and allowing us to finally be seen. And so very briefly, I would just say that it was just, I think this exhibition is just so wonderful to see queer and trans Caribbean people be put up on that pedestal and to say, oh, wow, they can contribute so much on every front. We've had this is an exhibition that featured reproductive justice advocates, and award-winning poets, myself from the environmental movement, economic justice and voting rights activists for making this world a better place. And I think the impact of this exhibition is just so powerful, and it shows that queer Caribbean people, when they're allowed to be themselves and they're allowed to thrive, can make the world a better place like nobody else can. And so I just want to popcorn it over to Tiffany, who, I mean, is awesome.
Well said, Darren. Hello, Tiffany.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much, Darren. Honestly, I don't know. I see it as sheer luck, but I have had such a journey, and as Darren said, being a part of this Live Pridefully exhibit was just like, honestly, like that crowning moment for Tiffany. I will say shout out to Muhammad. Honestly, girl, we don't really give you that flowers many times, and I'm gonna buy you a bunch of roses. I'll make sure they're rainbow roses, girl. I'm gonna get you some flowers because you created this a masterpiece. I remember talking to Muhammad, and Muhammad's like, "Girl, we're doing a whole Live Pridefully stuff. What can you contribute?" So he was telling me, I want you down for the interview segment. I was like, sure, I could do that. But, Tiffany was a dancer in Guyana. And she was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, I want to do a dance, and I did my dance. I showcased who I was, 592 all the way. And from then, Mo reached out to me and was like, girl, guess what? We're moving to the Queen's Museum. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So the Queen's Museum was like that crowning moment for me. And I know Mo didn't even mention it, and we're even on Photoville. So everything is just, it's just been like really, really great being a part of such an amazing exhibit. Again, I cannot, stop saying it, but congrats to you, Mo, for including me and for sharing my story. Congrats for allowing me to be Tiffany and allowing Tiffany to be a part of your amazing exhibit that you created. I remember when I got there today, I wore this amazing African outfit and I came out and I saw that exhibit for the first time and I cried. I literally cried going home. I don't know if most saw the tears there, but I was crying there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like Tiffany has made it in the Queen's Museum. And it was so beautiful and so amazing. And it was really great to be a part of such an amazing, amazing exhibit. And I really, really want other museums in New York City to contact Caribbean Equality Project. We're bringing that exhibit to all the museums in New York City, okay? Or in the entire US.
That's right.
Shameeza, I just want to add one more thing to that. I think Live Pridefully as a project, as an exhibition, during the pandemic, created space for the performing arts community to share their talent. And through our two-night event did that. The exhibition in itself amplified the resilience of Caribbean LGBTQ people. And to all of my Caribbean rainbow siblings, we know that we deserve to thrive, we deserve to be celebrated, we deserve to live, and we deserve to be loved. And Live Pridefully is an example of how we can center our creativity, our voice, and our stories to change and shift hearts and minds. And in a lot of ways, it's an example of what anyone could do by simply centering your community. And within the pandemics, we had to reimagine and we had to think about what pride looks like. And Live Pridefully became an example of that for us, where we were able to center Black and Brown LGBTQ people during a time where our lives were being threatened, during a time where even in the Caribbean, where people couldn't celebrate Pride in the Caribbean. Shout out to all the folks in Guyana who have been celebrating Pride virtually, Trinidad, Jamaica, and I know these Pride celebrations are coming back in person now. But also we can think beyond. The pandemic forced us to reconcile with what we can do through a virtual lens. And that also means our creativity. We were able to do that. And storytelling became a powerful tool to shift hearts and mind. And storytelling will always be a tool to shift hearts and mind. And this exhibition also features 7 oral histories that were recorded of Darren and all the featured participants, and they're available on the Caribbean Equality Project's website for anyone to go and look at and view. So not only was it a photo exhibition, but it was also a multimedia exhibition that featured oral histories of our community members as well.
Very well said. Mohammed, we will go now to anyone that would like to leave their final comments, final thought.
Hello. Can y'all hear me?
We'll take the panel. So each one of you. Go ahead,
Yes.
please.
So I just want to touch back on this question that you'd asked about the economic and healthcare situation in
Yes, please
Guyana
go
and
ahead.
US. So I must say in Guyana, there's so many things that affect trans people that we effectively shut out of any economic opportunity in Guyana, or even we're not even able to focus on our economic situation for ourselves, much as to tap into opportunities. For example, a trans person just be thrown out of their home at age 15, going 16, and be thrown out to nowhere. During that time when you're kicked out from your home, you might be in school or going to high school at that time. You can't get a high school diploma, or you can't complete CXC. So what are you going out into the world to? Majority of the times, when you go into the world, even if you do want to get a job, workplaces, private or public sectors won't hire you unless you might got to be a salon cleaner, or sometimes they have one or two situations where people get some kind of position within some private establishments, but in the public sector, there's no employment opportunities for trans people. And so a lot of trans people are being forced into sex work, specifically transgender women, and mostly in region 4 to be sides to. So that's kind of the economic situation. You're just locked out it by job, by family, by laws. I think Guyana has laws that protect people from discrimination in our constitution, but it's not being enforced in the right way. In terms of healthcare now, if we barely can't even get to work, don't ask what's healthcare situation, right? Because transgender people need access to hormone therapy, sometimes mental health services to speak to somebody because of the amount of things that you be going through. For example, I just talked about being thrown out of your home, um, homeless, no job, these kind of things. Sometimes you need somebody to talk to, and so these things are not present there. I do think they can be. There's a lot of organizations that are working on the ground, and I think it's some time that the government really tie themselves into these organizations and work hand in hand. For example, Guyana Trans United, Sasa Guyana, you have Gaibu, you have Equals, Proud to be Trans, all these groups that are working on the ground. I think it's important that the government reach out to these groups, and or people who want to donate, reach out to these groups and donate so they can continue the work that is lacking in our community, that's not coming from government response or the wider population. Um, in terms of New York City, some of the things that I've noticed also, especially when it comes to the treatment of asylum seekers, where people don't have access to jobs. And one of the greatest danger with this is that many a times if you're coming from, let's say for instance, Guyana, if it's a transgender person coming from Guyana as a sex worker, and then you come and you don't have a job here, a formal means of employment, it could push you back into a sex work arena. And then when this push you back into that arena, you now can become criminally liable to the U.S. government, who has very strict prostitution laws and things like that. So I think some work or a lot of work around the employment of asylum seekers, either at a sooner pace or sometime once they start working with lives, need to be done. In terms of housing for asylum seekers, you have to fall in certain categories before you can access housing in New York City, I can say. Right now, I am housing two of my siblings because this shelter system has failed. And for example, one of my sibling can't stay at the shelter because she is staying in a shelter where there's a female shelter. And because she's presented as a trans woman and doesn't conform to certain dress code and make, she doesn't pass half as trans enough for people. She just got to be in and out there, or she's got to face discrimination and lie down with people making eyes. So I had to fill this gap and one or two time house my sibling. Another one, it's the same thing with her in the same situation. You understand? If it's not a proper place to stay, it's always something fighting against them. So those situations need to change. And access to healthcare too. If you now have a documented status in this country or in this state, you can get proper access to healthcare services. And like I mentioned before, we transgender people, especially transgender people of color, black and brown transgender immigrants in this country, do need these basic access, and some amount of work needs to be done. And like I mentioned before, for Guyana leg, reach out to the organizations in Guyana, but there are also organizations here in the US, here in New York City, like Caribbean Equality Project. There are numerous immigrant groups, and we also have groups like the Reunited African Descendants that works globally and assists LGBTQ asylum seekers and stuff like this. So I think there's a lot that could come from the government, and that's working with civil society and people doing this work, but also looking at from policy wise and seeing just to improve the situation for transgender people, whether it be here, whether it be in Guyana, around the world. I think we're just facing this large scale oppression that doesn't mean to stop. So that's it for me.
Perfectly said. And again, we will go to any final comments from each of you. Ryan, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I was just going to say this. I mean, I've been working with the Caribbean Equality Project, I think, since 2015. And I just wanted to share, I think, sort of the strength of this exhibition and also of this panel is that you are seeing also cross-racial solidarities that are happening in reference to the Caribbean, which I think in place, I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, which obviously has a huge Caribbean population as well. But what drew me to CEP's work is, again, this sort of cross-racial and cross-ethnic work that we were doing. And when I reached out to Mohammed so many years ago, it was because in Toronto, I was seeing one of our major sort of obstacles in queer, people of color organizing is that there was a lot of Indo-Caribbean groups doing their own thing, and there were Afro-Caribbean groups or Black groups doing their own thing, but they weren't kind of speaking to each other. And given the history of the Caribbean, we've always lived in the same spaces, and we've always been entangled with each other, and we've always been connected. And I saw, like, why is this happening, particularly in Caribbean organizing? And I think also the strength of the exhibition, whether you see it virtually or whether you saw it in person already, is that it speaks to all these sorts of connections, not just across race, but across space as well, right? From communities in the diaspora back to sort of the Caribbean region. And it helps us to further sort of try and improve these sorts of relations across these sort of racial boundaries that try and position us against each other, which I think is really, really super important. And, even given, I'm sure for some people that have been following what was said a couple days ago with the previous leader of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamala Prasadi Cesar, who released some really anti-Black statements the other day, I'm sure some people know what I'm talking about, is, again, we know that these sorts of, I see Darren's waving his flag here, but we know that this sort of anti-Blackness in the Indo-Caribbean community is really real, and it's so pervasive. And as someone said in this panel, these politics don't just stay in the Caribbean, they move with people as people immigrate. And so in queer space, that is also the work that we need to do, as well as trying to build and not just talk about these solidarities, but actually practice them. And I think the exhibition that Mohammed and the rest of the team have so beautifully curated is helping us to move in that direction.
Thank you.
I'll just briefly say, first of all, really thank you so much, Shameeza, for giving us the time and the space to talk about how queer and trans Caribbean people think about our own experiences. Oftentimes, a lot of these, a lot of programs that end up reaching Caribbean audiences talk about us and not necessarily to us. Or talk at us, if some of y'all know some of the programs that I'm referencing, rather than talking to us. And so I just appreciate having the space to really engage in conversation and share our thoughts and our feelings, and really impress upon all of the viewers that we are human beings. We bleed, we're different, we have wants, needs, desires. We desire community, and we desire a place in this world, and we desire the ability to contribute. And so the final thought that I just want to leave us with is that I really hope that these conversations continue beyond the horizon of Pride Month, and that even in August, December, January, we can continue to feature the voices of queer and trans Caribbean people. This is why Caribbean Equality Project does the work that we do all throughout the year. And this is why we want to have exhibits like this that can be featured in museums, not just in New York City, but throughout the diaspora and even in the region, so that we are, that our presence, that our contributions, that our humanity is something that people can engage with beyond Pride Month. So I just want to say thank you so much for giving us the time and space to talk about that. And I hope that we get to come back on and delve into some more issues.
Certainly. You're welcome to come back at any time. We'll go to how about Tiffany?
Yes. Yes. Thank you again so much, Shameeza Ali. As always, it's been a pleasure. I know I was here the last time, and it's so amazing that I'm here again today. As my sister Twinkle highlighted some of the issues happening in Guyana, I will say to you that, in Guyana, I did not identify as a transgender woman. And I did not identify as a transgender woman because I was very scared of how Guyana was treating the transgender community. And I just felt like I didn't want to fall into the same situation. And it put me in a box where I tried my best to confirm and be masculine, which was very hard. And I will say to you now, coming here and actually being my true and authentic self, it's been such an amazing journey. And meeting Twinkle and like hearing from her, and I love her so much. And she is an amazing person. She is an amazing person, and she's my big sister. And it's so amazing that she opened her world to me and welcomed me. And she guides me as well through my transition still, because we're still transitioning. I always say transitioning is a journey. Like it's not even like a stop sign for that. Like it's a journey. Like we're still transitioning. And coming here to the United States, I did get a chance to like um, be a part of rallies and protests that actually molded me into being this trans justice activist that I am today, and all these experiences that I have learned, and also people that I've spoken to have actually molded me more into being an activist for the trans community. I just want to continue to do this work for my community, for the Black and Browns, trans and gender nonconforming people. I really want people out there to not just see this session we have today as, oh yes, it's Pride Month. They're out there for Pride Month. I want you guys to just spread the word, keep spreading the word. Like, there are many people that are probably watching this that are scared to come out to their relatives and friends, and just know we were just like you. I was just like you, and I'm here today as a trans woman, here to share my story to the world and let people know that you're not doing this alone. Like, we've all been through the same situation, especially coming from the Caribbean. And I just want people to like understand that we're here not being bullies or arguing for any crazy banal reason, but we're here with facts, and we have the receipts for these facts. This is what's been happening to the LGBTQ community, especially in the Caribbean. And I want you guys to listen and understand that we're all the same. We're the same human beings. We're the same people that you were loving all the time.
Well said, Tiffany.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Mo, we will go to you now because we have to, at this point, we have to wrap up, but we'll take last comments from Mo.
Shameeza, can we give Daniel like a maybe 30 seconds to just say
go
a
ahead.
few words?
Absolutely.
So I want to say thanks, Shameeza, for having me on this panel discussion, as well as having my other community members on this discussion to to share our experience and share our journey in the Caribbean with the various challenges that we would have faced. And what I want to say to my Guyanese brothers and sisters, just have an open mind for when anyone come to access any services, any opportunity, look past or how we want to express ourselves, just see us as an individual with potential coming to make this world a better place. Yeah.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Yes. And that's exactly what it is.
Yes. So, Shameeza, thank you so much for being an exemplary ally to our community. This work that Caribbean Equality Project is doing with our partners in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in Guyana, in St. Lucia, including the organization including ECAID that Daniel is a part of. It takes all of us to keep us safe. And Caribbean Equality Project has been doing this work for 7 years now. This June is going to be our 7th anniversary. We started in 2015 in response to anti-LGBTQ hate violence. And from then to now, we have been building a beautiful, resilient, powerful Caribbean LGBTQ community in New York City and beyond, including reaching communities in Toronto, the UK, Florida, Maryland, Virginia, Connecticut, Jersey. These are all places where our work is known and can be learned, can be taught about and learned about. And today, during Pride Month, our community are sharing their stories of resilience. We're sharing our stories of survival. We're sharing our stories with interactions with police and anti-Blackness and racism and violence. And what is being highlighted is our intersectional identities, all of our intersectional identities. And when we talk about, immigration, when we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, and when we talk about, Richmond Hill and Little Guyana, when we talk about Flatbush, Brooklyn, and Little Caribbean, we're talking about Black and Brown Caribbean people. We're talking about Abidis, Guyanese, Trinidadian, Jamaican people. But when we start to highlight, this person is gay, this person is trans, this person is bisexual, this person is Muslim, this person is Hindu, these identities have meaning and values to them. But today during Pride Month and Caribbean Heritage Month, we are calling on our community to keep protecting and loving each other. We know how to keep each other safe. We will continue to keep each other safe. And when our labor and time is being erased and being tokenized, we will continue to resist these movements, these organizing practices of exclusionary practices that are happening even here in Richmond Hill, Queens, and in the Caribbean. And for my Guyanese community, keep being strong, keep being resilient, keep speaking up, keep speaking your truth, own your power, and call on your government, call on your government, call on your leaders, your Caribbean, your LGBTQ leaders in the Caribbean to change, create change, reach out to organizations like Twinkle mentioned to access resources and services, and also ask questions. If you are not getting the services you need, ask questions, ask why, but call on your government to protect you. Because here in New York City, I can tell y'all, the Guyanese government comes to New York City almost they've been here so many different times, and they're talking about how they're protecting our Guyanese community. And I tell you, LGBTQ people are not being included in that conversation. So if you live in Guyana and if you live in New York City, if you're engaging with the Guyanese government, know that you should also be including LGBTQ people in those conversations. We deserve to be in positions of decision making and positions of power equally to every single one else that's being acknowledged within these movements. So happy Pride from the Caribbean Equality Project. And as we say, continue to live pridefully, be proud, be you, and live pridefully. Thank you so much, Shameeza, for having us today.
Thank you, guys. And on final closing for me, tonight you heard from members of our community who is fighting for the right to be heard, rights to be seen as one, rights to be inclusive, or to be who they are. My question to you is, how different is their rights from the rights of a woman who is fighting for equality in a man's world? How different is it from a colored person who is screaming for their rights? To me, these are all human rights. As humans, love is love. Until next time, be happy, be yourself, and more importantly, love yourself. Good night, everyone.